From the Marquee Media Studio inside Mark Tank, it's the Mark Haney Show.
Yes, this is the Mark Haney Show, and we are on a mission to ignite the entrepreneurial revolution right here in the hometown we love. And in today's show, we're going to have two leaders from the City of Elk Grove. We're going to have Darrell Doan. He's the Economic Development Director for the City of Elk Grove. But we're also going to have Kevin Spease. He is an entrepreneur. He's a city council member for the City of Elk Grove. And we're going to be talking about why economic development and entrepreneurship go hand in hand. And we're going to be talking about what's going on with the City of Elk Grove. And I think it's important to point out that these two individuals and the City of Elk Grove specifically are leaders within the entrepreneurial community. What Elk Grove is doing is unique to the Sacramento region. They are providing funding to startups. They are doing pitch competitions. They've really rallied around this space in a way that we are not seeing around the region, and very proud to have them share their story. They're, I think, a great example for the rest of the cities in the region to consider as they approach, how to drive economic development within the region. And of course, there's other great things happening in other cities. City of Rockland, City of Roseville are doing some great things, but this particular city, Elk Grove, is doing some really unique things, and we're going to share that story on the show today. And now it is my pleasure to bring on the men of Elk Grove, leaders of Elk Grove. We have Kevin Spease. He's a council member, and he's also an entrepreneur. And then along with him is Darrell Doan. He's the Economic Development Director for the City of Elk Grove. So we're going to be talking about what's going on in Elk Grove. So maybe we'll start off by just letting you guys give a little bit of an intro, maybe your background. You want to start with you, Kevin?
Sure, absolutely. So I want to thank you first for having us today. We really appreciate it. And there's a lot of great things coming out of Elk Grove right now. Folks should be impressed about everything that we've got going on. We've got new businesses coming into town. We've got some great programs that I think Darrell's going to explain a little bit more about later. We just really got some exciting things.
Darrell, maybe just a little background?
Yeah, thank you for having us, Mark.
You betcha.
This is my second time here, and you do a great job, and we appreciate you paying attention to Elk Grove and what we're trying to do down there. I was here in 2019, and I went back and listened to that, and I was like, man, I'm not sure I knew what I was talking about then, right? I told you we were an emerging economy, and we were crawling and hoping to walk, but now I think we're running.
Nice.
And we're doing some great things. We're doing some great things in tech and entrepreneurship. We've got a thriving manufacturing sector. We're trying to bring the Sacramento Zoo to Elk Grove. We've got a gaming resort that's about to open. We built a Central Park since we last talked, an Olympic-style swim center, the nicest civic event center you've ever seen in your life. We've just got so much going on, and we've gone from an upstart economy to, well, we're always going to be an upstart because that's how we behave, but we really are starting to grow into our own thing that's less dependent on other cities in the region.
Well, as business leaders, we all have to, as humans, we have to ask ourselves the question, what are you going to do with what you got, right? What are my strengths, my weaknesses, my opportunities, my threats, and how am I going to sort of leverage that? So as leaders of this great city, maybe we can just kind of give us a little bit of background of what's the basics? What are you starting with when you have Elk Grove? How big are you? What are the big, its location and so on? Are there any things that are sort of in your favor and maybe some things that are like challenging?
Yeah, we're historically, we were a train stop town, right? Going back to 1850. And so we have this sort of agrarian rural history, but circa
agrarian, is that ag? Is that ag? Is that like an ag? Okay, yeah. So agriculture
it's a college
is
word for you, Mark.
Hey, I'm an entrepreneur. Did you know what that meant, Kevin?
I did, because I live in an
because he lives in Elk Grove.
Agrarian, wow.
Yeah. Anyway, so we have that history, and we stayed a small town until the late 70s, early 80s. And then we had this rapid growth that was driven by essentially home building. When we were not a city, we were just an unincorporated part of the county. The county was making the decisions about where business went and where housing went.
Okay.
And largely housing went to South Sacramento County, went to Elk Grove. So we grew up as this very suburban bedroom community environment, which is not a bad thing. We embrace that. But we didn't have a business base. We were nice tree-lined streets with housing and very resident neighborhood serving shopping centers. And so when we incorporated in 2000, largely so that we could take control of our own destiny and start to plan a different kind of community, we had some challenges. We didn't have an industrial base. We didn't have an office base. We didn't have any real technological or entrepreneurial activity going on that we knew about. We incorporated, and then we grew rapidly. Right, we annexed part of town that people call Laguna. We don't like that word. It's all Elk Grove. We don't like East Elk Grove and West Elk Grove and Old Elk Grove and New Elk Grove. We're 180,000 people now, and we've got housing starts that'll get us to 225, 230,000 in a very short amount of time. So we're a big city that emerged rapidly, and now we're almost trying to go backwards by saying, okay, we got the houses. We got these great schools, we got these great parks, we got these neighborhood serving shopping centers, but we don't have a corporate base, which means we're not sustainable yet. And so a big part of what I've been trying to do since I came on board in 2015 and with Kevin's help and the rest of the council is, how do we bring in those corporations, large and small, that are going to create an employment base and a wealth base in our community and do that in a way where we're innovating. Tradable sectors, innovative technologies. We see that as a big part of our future. And how do you do all that without forgetting about your agrarian roots?
So Kevin, you come in a couple of years ago.
Right.
So your background is you've got a military background, and you do cybersecurity for the military these days. So you have a number of employees, significant company. But you come in. Why become a city council member? And then what kind of shape was the city in? What kind of trajectory were you in as Elk Grove when you came in and started helping lead?
Well, so I really appreciate the setup because I told Darrell when I was outside that I was going to do a little bragging on him. In 2015, the city council made a fantastic decision. I get a lot of people who come up to me now and say, man, Elk Grove is on the move. Elk Grove is doing good things. And I said, yeah, the city council in 2015 made a great decision to hire on Darrell Doan and to allow him to set up a staff and to execute his strategy for that. So, with that, again, as an elected official, it's really easy for me to say, yeah, Elk Grove's doing great. I did it, but it's really staff who's been doing a lot of work, right? We've got Kubota coming to town. We're looking at a zoo. We've got other things in the pipeline that unfortunately we can't talk about. But I should say we've got our old town is reviving again.
Why do they want to come to Elk Grove though? Why are you having the success? What's the attraction?
The attraction is, first of all, Elk Grove is a great place to live, right? And now it's this idea of you want to have your employees work and live in the same place. And so if you're looking to have lower crime, right? You want to have parks, you want to have good schools for your kids. Elk Grove is a great place to be, right? So if you can bring your company in and have your employees, be able to get that benefit, I think that's why a lot of companies are looking to that. But in addition, we're doing the best that we can to make sure that our permits are going as quick as possible, making sure those tenant improvements are able to be done so that it's not a burden on the applicants. I think that's what people are excited about Elk Grove for.
Yeah, so thinking about this, we all like to talk entrepreneurship on this show, and what you are doing in entrepreneurship is remarkable, and I want to go through some of those things so that we can highlight that so people will understand that you're a magnet for entrepreneurs and startups as well. So maybe we can kind of start talking about those things a little bit. I know you just gave away a bunch of money and when I say you invested it into the startup community, which is an area where I run in, and those early dollars that we get as a startup founder can be game changing. So I know it makes an impact, but maybe you can talk about why you do this, why you give money, invest money into these early stage companies.
So one of the first meetings I took when I came to Elk Grove in 2015, and thank you, Kevin, for the kind words, was with Kevin and another gentleman, and they were, Kevin's idea was we need to be a more innovative economy, right? I'm an entrepreneur. I have a cybersecurity business. We need more of that going on, right? And we need to grow that from within. We need to find homegrown entrepreneurial talent, probably in tech verticals, because that's where a lot of it is. And we need to create a platform for them to springboard off of and have success. And I took that to heart. We did what we did for a couple of years to get up to speed. And then around 2018, we decided, you know what, it's time to go into this startup game. How do you do that as a city, though, right? That's a tricky thing. And a lot of cities in the 90s were like all popping up these incubators, and they all failed. I didn't want to do that, right? What we did is we built a program called Startup Elk Grove. It's not a terribly creative marketing name, but it works, right?
So it's easy to understand.
That's right. That's right. And we thought, well, what we want to do is we want to go into our community and we want to find the entrepreneurs who are working out of their garage or out of their kitchen counter. We have no shortage of garages in Elk Grove because we're a bedroom community. I mean, I knew there had to be some creative entrepreneurship, startup kind of stuff happening. We just needed to pull them out and identify them so then we could support them. And we do that financially as well as with space. We have Grove, which is a great tech-based, tech-focused co-working space that Kevin started before he was on the council with a couple other guys in the community.
Oh, you were part of starting that too? Because I know Steve Barnett.
Steve Barnett was the guy who pushed it across the line. I don't want to take up too much.
You were there early on, though.
I was there early on, but yep. I want to make sure that Steve is a man who punched it over the line.
Okay.
Yeah, Steve is a great advocate for our city. We created this program, and I've told you about this before, where we have these grants, right? And it's non-recourse. We're not investors. This is taxpayer money. What we try to do is we identify people in our community that have a minimum viable product. Maybe they're bootstrapping. They got friends and family money, but it's a great idea, and it's going to launch, and then it's going to scale, and we can see that, right? So I don't want that to start here and end up somewhere else. Right, mm-hmm. I want that to start here and stay in Elk Grove. One of the things I like to say is, we all chase the Amazon HQ2 project. Like every economic development director in the country, we had to, right? Politically, I had to go.
You're trying to recruit a big Amazon.
Right. That never happens, Mark. Right?
It's like swinging for a home run, and you haven't even taken a swing yet.
Where did Amazon start? Google start? Spotify, Apple, they all started in the suburbs, and they might have moved once early on, and then they stayed and they put down roots and they became these big corporate anchors for those communities. I only got to find one of those, right? So I took this program to council and I said, all right, this is going to sound a little crazy, but I want to start giving taxpayer cash to risky, early stage, unproven business concepts. And because my council's awesome and very pro-business, they didn't hesitate. They said, we get it. Because I said, all I got to do is find one. That could be our Apple, our Google, our whatever. It could anchor our economy for decades. And that's what we've been doing. We've got a process where we bring in and we vet startup concepts and business plans. We have a consultant who reviews that for us. We make small grants, anywhere from $10,000 to $75,000 in these early stage companies. If you're MVP and you're getting ready to get evaluation and you've got some employees, we might give you $75,000 or $100,000 to get you into proper space, to get you to add a few more employees that you need, to get you down that runway with your burn, so you can make it to evaluation, make it to an A round.
Did you guys invest or grant money to Clockwork Logistics?
We did. We gave money to Clockwork.
That guy's last name is Haney too.
Yeah,
I always liked him.
Yeah, Rob was our first investment was Grove. We gave money to Grove because we recognized we need space where entrepreneurs can come and get out of the house and find some synergy. So we gave money to Grove, and then we gave money to Clockwork, who's a logistics platform, web-based app that tells you at any minute where your package is and what the temperature is and who's driving it. And then we brought in another company called Eyerate, who is just starting to blow up. When we gave them money, they had 5 employees, and they were in a basement. Not a basement. We don't have basements in California. They were in a garage. And now they're in commercial space in Elk Grove. They've got 31 employees.
Wow,
and they're going after their initial valuation right now.
I think we might be taking a look at them as an
You
investment.
should be. Yeah.
I think, in
just
fact, we're
keep them in Elk Grove, though.
Yeah. No problem. As long as for me, it's like, hey, stay in the region. Definitely stay in Elk Grove. And I think you mentioned it earlier, Kevin. It's like if you build I talk to different city leaders, and if you build a great place to live, right? If we want to work near where we live. It makes sense. So you kind of built that foundation.
Right.
Everybody thinks of startup activity as happening in some cool midtown environment, and a lot of it does. But I think increasingly, as millennials are aging, they're putting down roots. I think a lot of that entrepreneurship activity is moving to the suburbs. We're seeing it. We got 2 more companies that we're looking at. I can't name them, but they are Elk Grove founders. We're going to get to 4 or 5 companies. We're not in a hurry. It's taxpayer money, so we have to be very methodical and judicious about where we invest it. We can't take wild risks. But again, if you've got a competent business plan and you've got a head start and you've got that viable product, we're going to support you financially because it'll build loyalty and you'll stay in Elk Grove and you'll grow and you'll anchor in Elk Grove.
How much do you look at the founder himself, herself? Because I do some investing and you want to get a ROI, whether for you guys it might not be a financial return, but you want jobs to get created. Right. You want wealth to get created. And some people are more committed to doing that than others. So I look at commitment as a number one core value when I make an investment into a company. It's really into the founder and his or her commitment to start.
That's right. Steve, well, so you've heard the joke about the chicken and the pig.
I guess I haven't.
You haven't? Okay, it's simple.
Can you tell it?
I can tell it.
Okay,
it can be said.
We do this show on the radio too, so no F-bombs or anything like that.
Nothing like that. Okay, so chicken goes to pig and says, "Hey, I'd like to start a breakfast restaurant, and I'd like you to go in on it with me." And the pig says, "No, thanks." And the chicken says, "Well, why not? It would be great. I'll make eggs. You have ham." And the pig says to the chicken, "Sounds like a great idea." You're interested, but I'm committed.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah.
That's good.
Right? So, commitment is something that is extremely important. When I first wanted to start my business, I should say our business, I apologize for that. When we first started our business, someone said to me, well, until you're in it full time, until you say that's what until you demonstrate that you're all in, nobody else is going to go all in. Yeah. So it's that commitment that you have to do and say, look, come heck or high water, I'm going to do, cybersecurity or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And if you don't do that, nobody's going to believe in you either if you don't believe in yourself.
That commitment, it's attractive. Sometimes it's hard to measure when you just meet somebody or at a pitch competition, but you guys recently did something. And sadly, I didn't make it. I apologize. I was double booked. I wanted to be there. I know a lot of my friends were there.
Year, Mark.
I hope I'm invited again. But you guys, you did this pitch competition, and you gave away, and you made some investments or some grants into these companies. Yep. Can you describe what that process looks like? Because I think a lot of us would want to go to next year's.
Yeah. Well, I had this idea, and it was, okay, we've had this program for a couple years. We need to do something to build our brand externally within the region, right? I got to do both, right? I got to take homegrown talent and help develop that, and convince guys like you to come in and help with that, and throw some money at them. But I also we got to do our part for the region, because as the region thrives, its individual components thrive. Cities like Elk Grove, Rancho, Roseville, Davis, we all thrive.
I'm glad you recognize
when the region
that, because
is strong.
That sentiment. It may be general sentiment, but it's not across the board. Not everybody has that same feeling. So it's glad that you're leading that feeling. I think it just takes people like you saying it.
We all need to say that, right? To that end, I went to my city manager, a guy named Jason Behrman, who is brilliant. He's one of the best city managers. He is the best city manager in the region, and totally committed to economic development. And I've got a council that's totally committed to it. So I can come up with these crazy ideas and pitch them, and sometimes it works. So I went to my city manager and I said, hey, I want to bring like 100 or 150 people in the regional or Northern California startup business to Elk Grove. I need an event that's going to get them excited about coming to Elk Grove. Let's do a pitch contest. And I said, I want to take maybe $20,000 and I want to give it away to companies. And he's like, great. What Elk Grove companies are we going to give that money to? And I said, it's probably not going to go to Elk Grove companies. It's going to be a regional pitch contest, like what Capitalize is for the Kings. We're going to get all these companies to apply, and we're going to end up giving money probably to somebody in Folsom and somebody in Davis, and hopefully to somebody in Elk Grove. We got an Elk Grove company that rises to the top. And he's like, why would we do that? And I said, because that is going to be the best money we spend on this program, right? We're going to spend $40,000 or $50,000 putting on this event, including prize money. I'm going to get 3 or 4 times that in terms of brand exposure to people like you, venture capitalists, other startup people that came to the event that would never normally come to anything in Elk Grove. And if I put on a first class event, we'll get them there. And then we'll get 40 or 50 companies exposed to our program just by putting out the call for proposals. And we did. We got 50 applications. They were great. We cut that down to 16. We had a virtual pitch off. Then we cut that down to 8 for a live event that we started planning 7 or 8 months ago. I wasn't sure who was going to come. We had over 150 people in the audience, all in the startup industry, and most of them not from Elk Grove. That's the kind of exposure our city needs so that the region and even the mega region takes us seriously as a startup location. It's a bit audacious, I think, for a supposedly sleepy suburb to try to do something like that, but we did it and it went off great, and the publicity was all earned. I didn't have to pay for any of it. Well, I paid the companies.
Yeah.
Right. And now we have this great, from those 16 finalists, we're talking to 8 of them right now about setting up shop in Elk Grove.
Wow, that's
and
incredible.
taking part in our program.
Yeah. That's phenomenal.
So we're pretty excited about that.
So you're doing that in entrepreneurship. What else is happening in terms of entrepreneurial activity within Elk Grove? Anybody want to jump on that, Kevin?
What do you got, Kevin?
Entrepreneurial. Well, California is not the easiest place for business. I don't know if you've heard that before, but in Elk Grove, we're doing the best that we can to improve that for us. Again, some of the programs that Darrell has talked about, and then, just helping people know that we're there for them, that we're trying to increase business. That's been working out pretty well.
Yeah, you talked about the streamlining the permit process.
Right,
that it sounds like no big deal, but it's a big deal when you need it.
Oh, it's huge.
It's not sexy. It's huge, but. Yeah. If you're whether you're in tech or not, if you're just a small business, those are startups too, right? If you're a small business startup, if you're a barber shop on the corner, and you got to go find space that works for you, and then negotiate a lease, and then go to the city and pull a permit or maybe get a conditional use permit to be able to do that business at that location. If that is at all complicated, it can kill the venture before it goes anywhere. And if that costs $10,000 or $15,000, it could be game over. Right. So we actually started a program just last year called the Small Business Permit Assistance Program. Again, not a terribly exciting marketing name, but it's clear what we offer. Right. So if you have to come to the city and pull a permit, you need to fill out an application, put down a deposit, pay for some plan review, maybe a trip to the planning commission. That can add up to $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. We cover that now. If you're breathing and you're a business that wants to start up in Elk Grove in commercial space, there is no cost to you to pull those permits in the city of Elk Grove. And on top of that, we were already the fastest in the region at processing those permits because our council insists on it, right? They want us to be, we weren't always the most business-friendly city, and that was a reputation that we probably earned at one point early in our lifespan. But we fixed that a little bit, started a little bit before I got there, but I was able to finish it. We now have the best development services department in the region. We turn around permits faster than anybody else. And it doesn't cost you hard. I mean, if it's $100,000, I can't give you that. But if it's 10 or less, we comp that. No other city in the region is doing that.
Wow. Incredible. Well, your location, geographic location, seems strong comparatively because you're pretty close to the you're the closest major hub to areas of the Bay Area, Silicon Valley and stuff. So you can kind of shoot to a job, a tech job, pretty quick if you happen to have wanted to get to more affordable housing.
Yeah. Relatively quick, right? Yeah. I mean, if you're in Elk Grove, you got to hop on 99 or I-5 South, and you're moving quick. Mm-hmm. So it's a great place, a great position in the valley to be.
Have a lot of so we all have heard about the great migration away from the Bay Area in Sacramento. We're here in Placer County, so Rockland, Roseville, Loomis, and up Highway 50, El Dorado Hills. The realtors here say, well, we've got a lot of tech workers moving into town, buying up the houses. Elk Grove was already getting some of that, right? Mm-hmm. Or did you get a lot more when when the
No, I mean,
COVID hit?
COVID was tough, and I don't want to be de minimis about anybody's challenges with that. But actually, Elk Grove weathered that storm pretty well from a financial standpoint, from a business standpoint. Locationally, we already had an advantage because, as you say, we're the furthest south in the Sacramento region, the closest to the South Bay and over the Altamont. You're into Livermore and Pleasanton and Fremont and all those places, right? But yeah, we saw an influx of Bay Area tech. I think by and large people that are still working for companies over there, but they're working in this hybrid thing. And so our daytime population grew. Yeah. I'm hoping we can pull some of those people who now live in Elk Grove but are still working for Bay Area companies into regional companies. And maybe some of them stop what they're, the great retirement is also happening too, and people.
The great retirement, the great resignation.
I think that's going to be good for the region.
I agree, and I think that some of those tech workers, they're entrepreneurial by nature in many cases, and they're going to have ideas, and they're going to start they might start out of their garage or out of their home office, but they're going to end up where they live to start.
Yeah, and Elk Grove again. I mean, people want a house at an affordable price. They want high quality public schools. They want parks and trails and shopping options. Those are all things we can give you in Elk Grove, and we're only improving that with some of the projects we have going. I mean, something like the zoo, right? I mean that puts us on the map in a different way as a visitor destination. Something like our casino. Now there's entertainment options for our residents. The stuff we're doing in our historic downtown with bringing breweries and wineries into town. I mean, you can come spend a day in Elk Grove and tour and visit 11 different breweries and wineries that are all really fabulous. That's not something you could have done, say, 10 years ago, but we're able to do it now. And now we tell the story of why you should and can do that in a way that we don't just leave that to chance.
Is anything, I remember I've had the casino people on the show. Chucky was on my show one time. And at one point, certain things are more controversial than others. I don't know if the grants are controversial because it's taxpayer money. But
it hasn't been.
Good. Good.
That is good.
I don't think it should be, but I mean, I'm not there. So what's coming up? What's controversial around? Are any people anti-growth? Do you ever have to deal with that kind of stuff?
Oh, you want to talk about controversy? We want to talk about No, we're not afraid of controversy.
I mean, I think small business. It seems like everybody loves small business. We're like puppies, and people. There's certain people we rally around small business. So I don't feel like there's that much controversy around that. But occasionally, people get their head.
So I think there's some controversy around it, but it's sort of a what would you call it? A larger business process that's at work here. Back in the day in Elk Grove, we used to, when Walmart came to town, right? Mm-hmm. We lamented the loss of the small businessman, right? And absolutely, right? I mean, those were folks that were living in Elk Grove and investing in Elk Grove and, buying the tickets at the crab feed and all that stuff. So we were very sad when, big businesses came in and kind of killed off the grocery stores. That was not a good thing, right? There was an identity problem that we had. What I think we're going to find now is that when we start seeing, online e-commerce, we're starting to see, some of the logistical stuff, right? What would you call it? Complaints about larger distribution companies, right? I think there may be a time when we say, man, remember when we used to go to Walmart and we used to, have a cup of coffee at Walmart or whatever, right? I think we're going to get that same sort of thing. And I think people are unhappy about that. I think they see that. And but the reality is that's kind of where we're going as a society. And it's understandable, right? I think just as 10, 15 years ago, I lamented the loss of, the small businesses that I knew growing up.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see that same sort of shift happen. And
Yeah, but the
people-
world changes, and as leaders, we have to make smart decisions or the best decisions we can in order to provide make it a great place to live, and grow your other small businesses.
The growth in Elk Grove it's not gonna happen. It has happened, and it's gonna continue. The city's gonna continue to grow, right? We're gonna reach our sort of natural limit of our boundaries, and there's only so much you can fill in with houses and restaurants and shopping centers and corporations. But we're gonna get a little bit bigger, I think, before we're done. And for politicians like Kevin, it's not a question of are we a small town or are we a big town? But what kind of town do we want to be, and how do we want to manage that growth, right? Do we want to be a sustainable economy that can stand on its own when the next recession hits, and we're not reliant on commuting to jobs downtown or in the Bay Area, right? We want to be our own sustainable economy. We can still be a suburb. We'll always be a suburb of Sacramento, but we can be both. We can be a suburb, and we can be a city that can stand on its own 2 feet at the same time. And you can have a big city that still has a great quality of life, still has good schools, still has low crime, has employment opportunities for people, keeps its money in town. That's what we strive for. That's our motto. What's our motto, Kevin? It's a test for you.
But do you have a vision, Kevin, for what you see Elk Grove? Do you have family that's going to continue to grow up here and put roots here? Do you have a vision for what Elk Grove is going to be for them?
Absolutely. I mean, well, first and foremost, I think we've got to have more businesses here, because one of the sad things for me is that my son doesn't live here. My son doesn't live in Elk Grove. He doesn't live in California. And again, I don't want to be negative, but there are right now there are better opportunities for him outside of California. It's more livable, right?
Okay.
What do I see? I would love to have more businesses in Elk Grove, just like like Kubota and Apple and those sorts, right? Because what most of the people I talk to want to be able to have their children live near them. Mm-hmm. And before, when we were just a bedroom community, I'm not saying that in a negative way, we were a bedroom community. We didn't have those opportunities, right? We didn't have some place where you could live and work in the same place. I mean, for me, my business, my headquarters is here. I live, eat, sleep, do business in Elk Grove, right? And that's what people want. So what we've got to do is to continue to build the infrastructure in the economy to address that, right? I think we really have the others parts nailed, right? Fortunately, with great effort, right? Our crime rate and our police department are absolutely fantastic, right? We've got good schools, right? Elk Grove Unified doing well. I think that if we keep doing those and increase the business that we have, I think it'll be an absolutely great place to be.
Well, you guys were talking about leadership within the city. You mentioned the city manager. When I went out to Elk Grove 6 to 12 months ago for a startup event,
I remember that.
You had the police chief was there, multiple members of council were there, the city manager was there, and I'm like, how does this happen in a city the size of Elk Grove? You're getting them to show up in a group of, I don't know, less than 100 entrepreneurial venture type people, and you've got the town leadership there. How does that sort of thing happen?
We're a team, and we've got a great culture. Local government is a corporation, right? And so we have a great corporate culture. We've got an established mission, which is to make Elk Grove just the most livable place in Northern California, and to manage our growth smartly. And I think even the police chief, the city manager, the council members, I think they all see that the way to make ourselves in a sustainable economy is to support small business and to invest in our own and make them grow. And then that helps the region too. Yeah, I'd like to attract some startups from other parts of the region, but that day will come. I mean, Eyerate's a good example, right? Three founders who all were born in Elk Grove, went to Elk Grove high schools, went off to college, left town, then came back, found themselves in Elk Grove, decided to do a startup venture. I told you they've got about 30 employees now. their business plan. I asked them just the other day in a meeting, I said, where do you want to be in 4 or 5 years? They said, we're going to be 500 people and 150,000 square feet of real estate.
Wow.
Doing
and
what
you think
we do.
about these tech jobs, whether it be a startup like Eyerate or an Apple, the jobs that they create are good jobs. They aren't creating minimum wage. I'm sure there's some minimum wage jobs mixed in, but developers and people that are working in these startups, they make good money. And that creates other jobs. There's a multiplier effect. One good tech job creates like 5 other support jobs. So, I mean, it's incredible that you're able to, that you have that vision. To me, this is a unique, I guess, perception. You're a person that works for the government but understands the power of a tech job. There's so much venture capital money out there looking for these startups. So if people like Elk Grove, people like the Grove Factory can get some of that seed capital going, they'll attract bigger dollars to come in, other people's money coming into our communities, driving our jobs, coming from all over the world. Yeah. And it's a unique perspective. Yeah,
it's happening. I mean, to put on my regional hat for a minute, I mean, Sacramento is still a great value, right? I mean, I know housing prices have accelerated because of that migration out of the Bay Area, but it's still a third of what you would pay to live and own a home in the other major, San Diego, LA, San Francisco, right? So we're still a great value. We've got people like you and the Growth Factory and Moneta Ventures and the Carlson Center and Fourth Wave and all these organizations that Elk Grove, little old Elk Grove, is committed to and supporting, because we want to grow this in the region, right? We want to be an innovative economy that has tradable sectors, right? Whether, that we've got almonds and we got rice, but we got to add some of those other pieces, and some of those other pieces are fintech, ag tech, right? All of that kind of stuff.
And let's talk about, I want to dive into this just for our audience a little bit. You used the term tradable sector. I know Barry Broom, the Greater Sacramento Economic Council guy. He uses that. Maybe for our audience though, tradable sectors, these are not the typical small business as we think of it, not the mom and pop, not the barbershop necessarily or the restaurant typically. These are companies that are more tech-based companies. Right.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily. I mean, it just Kubota. Mm-hmm. Kubota is a multinational Japan-based tractor corporation that is building currently as we speak their Western distribution headquarters in Elk Grove. Project we fought for with other states and other cities. Very proud we got that. Kubota is a tradable sector. They make a tangible product that can be imported and exported around the world. They make a tractor. They also make construction equipment. But tech can also be a tradable sector, right? I mean, we're seeing what's happened in the world right now with companies pulling out of Russia. Well, that they had a tradable product in a tradable sector. It just might have been an app, or it might have been, a cell phone or something like that. This region did a deep dive on itself 3 or 4 years ago. You probably remember this. We hired the Brookings Institution. This was under the leadership of Valley Vision and Amanda at Metro Chamber and Barry at GSEC. And we took a good hard look at ourselves. We needed to know whether we were as good as maybe we thought we were. And it was a kind of a sobering moment, right? This report from the Brookings Institution, which is very impartial, said, you're doing some good things, but you got a long way to go. And I think there was a feeling maybe a few years ago where people thought, hey, we're a major league town. We're not. We're still a minor league town. So we need a roadmap to tell us how to get to be a major league town. Brookings did that, and then the region put together this thing called the Prosperity Strategy, which is headed by Evan Schmidt at Valley Vision. They went around to all the cities and communities and got them committed to this vision for what growth can look like. And a lot of that was based on these tangible, tradable sectors, the jobs that those industries will produce. It doesn't have to be sexy, right? A tractor factory can just be just as sexy to our region as, I don't know, the Growth Factory, right?
Well. I don't know if it's as sexy as the Growth Factory.
Well, what could be?
You haven't seen my whole team, have you?
But, I mean, we can't continue as a region to be an economy that's anchored by government and medical employment. That's not enough. And I think Barry recognizes that. Elk Grove recognizes, a lot of us recognize that. And Elk Grove just wants to do its part. We brought in a little tractor company, but that creates 400 or 500 jobs for people that work in that industry. And we support somebody that starts out tiny and ends up being a 1,000-person employer in an office building, good jobs. That's great. And all the multiplier effects from that. Those are the people who shop at the barber shop and buy their food at, wherever. It could be Walmart. It could be Nugget. Mm-hmm. One thing I'm always really careful about is, I don't know what the definition of a good job is and what the definition of a bad job is, right? Because somebody making $100,000 in tech in the Sacramento region, yeah, that's a good job. But somebody making $17 an hour at Walmart, that might be a good job for them. That might be the difference between making rent and not making rent. So I never look down my nose at types of jobs. And I think that's really important because all business is local business, right? So Dave's Barbershop, where I get my hair cut, great barbershop. Shout out to Dave's in Elk Grove in Old Town. If you're looking for a
thank
haircut.
you for saying that.
But they're just as important. Walmart is a local business too because it employs local people. Or the guy who has 7 McDonald's franchises in Elk Grove, that's a local business too. He's got a house in Elk Grove, and his kids go to our schools. And, so all business is local business, Mark.
I agree. And I think all jobs, I won't say all jobs are equal, but a job at Walmart might be a stepping stone to management at Walmart, or a stepping stone to, it might be a job while someone's in college, or a stepping stone to a different type of career. So
it might be keeping you off the street, too.
Yeah. It's better than not working, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So, no, not all jobs are equal. I don't mean to imply that, but you need a diversity of jobs for a population with a diversity of skills and education, and that goes all the way down to minimum wage and all the way up to the CEO. Yeah. And we want that in Elk Grove, right? That's what makes a sustainable economy.
Okay, so I want to make sure that I got 2 more questions, but I want to make sure that you have a chance to maybe cover anything that is important that we haven't covered. But I want to make sure I understand the incentive program around startups, because our startups are probably thinking, okay, what's an Elk Grove? How do I tap into that? Do I wait around for next year? Are there things I can do now to line myself up for some of those incentives?
No, you can do it now, Mark.
Okay.
Our program is called Startup Elk Grove. You can go to investelkgrove.org to get more information. We have three segments of that. One is launch. Those are grants up to $35,000 for very early stage companies that are just starting. We'll give you money to develop your product, and we'll give you free rent at Grove. The next level is called Scale Up. Those are for growing companies that have a product, have some customers, have some revenues. We'll give you grants up to $150,000. And then we have a program called Spaces, and that's to operators of space that startups want to be in, like your growth factory. You bring your growth factory physically to Elk Grove, Mark, I'll give you $250,000 to set up an accelerator, an incubator, even co-working. For the people of Rockland, I'm not trying to steal the growth factory.
No, we're actually working on alliances with other municipalities beyond Rockland because really this is a regional thing, and we're part of GSEC's strategic plan, and so we're working to sort of bring our know-how, if you will, around scaling up companies. We're looking to bring that to Elk Grove and El Dorado Hills and whoever else will have us. So it's something that we think it becomes infectious, right? What you're doing right now in Elk Grove, it's great leadership, and the people that in the rest of the region need to take notice of this, and the attitude will be infectious.
Yep, I agree, and they are. I mean, you've got some great people in Rancho and West Sac and Davis. I mean, I think everybody's catching on. Maybe we got a little head start, maybe not. I don't know how smart we really are, but I think everybody's catching on. We all, as communities, there's 26 or 27 incorporated towns in the 6-county region. Don't quote me on that. I mean, Ileton needs to take this seriously. Right? Mm-hmm. Galt needs to take this seriously because economies that don't innovate stagnate. I'm not smart enough to have thought that up, but I like it. It's an easy little saying.
If you're not growing, you're dying,
That's
right?
right.
So,
That's
yeah.
right.
But it does seem like we as a society look to help out I think all entrepreneurs are underdogs at some level, but the most promising companies that can scale sometimes don't get the same level of help as the ones that are struggling. People that are struggling sometimes get a little bit the squeaky wheel gets a little more grease, if you will. I see that happening. I saw that happen during COVID for sure, but it's just kind of the way a lot of us are as humans, is we want to help the people that are struggling, and sometimes we need to invest in the ones that have the really good upside.
Absolutely.
Okay, Kevin, any closing thoughts? What did we not cover?
Oh, no, I guess, if anything, I just want to let folks know that Elk Grove, we've said it before, it's been a long time open for business. We're very interested in having folks who are entrepreneurs who want to have a great place to live, want to have some assistance getting started. We're committed to that. The City of Elk Grove has what I consider to be some fantastic leadership that is very pro-business. And so I'm just excited to have this opportunity to talk with you today. And that's it.
That's great. Appreciate it. Anything else as we close out?
Man, I think I've
Darrell?
said too much. Kevin
I probably have too.
Kevin hit the nail on the head. Yeah, it's a great community. We have great leadership. We have a great mayor. We have a great council, great city manager. We've got a great mix of business. We're really moving the needle down there. We invite everybody to come down and see us. You can come spend the day in Elk Grove and see a whole bunch of stuff. We'll take you around.
I think I'm going to come down and visit that beer section you were talking about earlier. Yeah, so that's something I might have to check out.
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks, guys, for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome back to the Mark Haney Show. And, this show really has been about put your money where your town is. That's been my mantra for years. And that's what's happening in Elk Grove. And it's beginning to happen in other areas of the region as well. But unique approach of Elk Grove is really helping fund these startups. I happen to be invested into one of these startups through the Growth Factory, a company called Eyerate, who's based out of Elk Grove. We made a recent investment into that company. And, working the public-private partnerships like what's happening with Elk Grove is it's much needed. I mean, these are our tax dollars, and where do we want them to be spent? Trying to recruit companies to come here from out of the region, big companies, not a bad way to spend an economic development dollar. But what about building our homegrown talent and helping them to get some early traction, some early funding, and drive entrepreneurship in a more homegrown way? That's been my approach my whole life. It's definitely been my approach with the Growth Factory, and it's what Elk Grove is doing as well. So if you have interest in understanding more about what's going on with the Growth Factory, obviously you can hit me up at the Mark Haney. I'm on social media. But the other thing that you might want to think about is being a part of GFX. That's the new big event that we will be doing on August 25th. This is where we will be bringing venture capitalists together with entrepreneurs and other leaders of the Sacramento region to celebrate entrepreneurship, but it's more than a celebration. This is a working conference. We're going to have hundreds of people rallying together to help the most promising startups. So this is where if you want to help a startup, you're going to be able to roll up your sleeves and actually get involved in helping startups, which is really, there's a lot of us that get a lot of enjoyment out of that. I mean, we all put forth, we want to do good for our hometown. And one of the things that we don't think about is, how do I help my hometown through entrepreneurship? So if you are an entrepreneur out there that's had some success, you've got some wisdom around entrepreneurship, or maybe a venture capitalist or an angel investor that can really add value to a special group of startups that we'll be presenting, and we'll be rolling up our sleeves and figuring out how to help them get some traction. If you want to get involved in that, hit me up, again, at the Mark Haney. It's GFX is the place to be. We're also going to have a speaker series that is some of the off-the-charts speakers that you might not normally hear in the Sacramento region. But it's really a great time to get out there, celebrate entrepreneurship, learn something from these speakers, and then roll up our sleeves, dive in, and help these entrepreneurs and build the community simultaneously together, because nobody builds a truly great company alone, and nobody builds a truly great community alone as well. So to all you out there fighting the good fight for entrepreneurship, and of course those fighting the good fight for our freedom, our security, and our way of life, to the 13 stripes and to the 50 stars, and to that one entrepreneurial dream always worth fighting for, yours. Never above you, never below you, always by your side.
Thanks for watching today's show. My goal for every episode is that you find a takeaway, something tangible you can use in your business today. And if you have a comment about a favorite takeaway, feel free to put it in the box below. And if you have a topic that you'd like me to bring up on the show, don't forget to let me know. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship. Because at Haney Biz, we are always by your side.